Like Jimmy Graham planning to row across the Arctic Ocean in 2025. Sometimes our show needs a little bit of a experience unlike any other. And today, we're back once again with the 2024 NFL quarterback rankings, arguably one of the most anticipated offseason shows of the season for us, probably behind the draft, because the draft is a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun with that one. And then the quarterback rankings, some of us in here, nameless, want to have some controversy, so we're going to do that. And the controversy, of course, is that the guy at the bottom here is running things because my other two compatriots, well, they've had some rough goes of it the past couple of days. So leave it to the guy with the 7-month-old to be the one who's actually fresh enough to run things here. Podfather Rick here. It is, of course, the nicest day of the year. It is Sunday, June 9th. Cha-ching. Welcome once again to the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast here on YouTube, X, or Twitter, or whatever you want to call it, and apparently streaming now in the ether of the Treasure Planet's Montreser Spaceport. Apparently, I got a sweet deal with Jim Hawkins over there for that back in O2 Disney World. Yeah, how about that for you? So that is me. Up on our top left is the Iceman, who, unlike Sergei Bobrovsky, had some goals sling past his way over the weekend. Jurg, hopefully things will get better for you, but I'm happy to see you, alive and upright at this very moment. How you doing?
Alive is the bare minimum of what I can describe right now. No, I was telling Justin pre-show, it's like just watch Rick. Despite the fact he's the one with the less than 1-year-old, probably got the best sleep between the three of us last night, and I think that statement somehow rings true. Which is amazing.
I did actually. I got a pretty good sleep. I was awakened a little bit earlier this morning than usual because my daughter wanted to wake up and get her leg caught in the crib bars. Unfortunately, no, she's fine though. She's fine. What it is that she cries for attention. I go get her, and then she goes right to her mother because she likes her better than me. So that's how it goes. When you're in a house with 3 females, and I'm including the dog, you get very shut out very quickly, and you find out very easily that it's not going to go well for you from there. But So listen, you're alive, you're kicking, you're upright. Good on you, bravo there. And to your right is a man who had a battle with Amon-Ra, the sun god, yesterday, and unfortunately he lost. But he is still here to join us. Green aloe vera is a beautiful thing, as we have discovered. Justin, JMZ8992 on the X and Twitter. Justin, how are you, aside from burned and confused?
No, that pretty much covers it.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, it's sometimes you just know these things. It's just how it is. I had a very bad sunburn once when I was about 10. It's the reason why I have my shoulders are still a little messed up from back then. But again, so kids, apply, reapply, and if you have any problems, get stronger sunscreen. I know they say anything over 30 is a marketing gimmick, but I mean, I use 75 and it still works for me. But I also don't go out in the sun that much. I'm an agoraphobe, so there you go. That's kind of how that works out. So as we said, today is our long-awaited 2024 NFL quarterback rankings. I believe we're doing the same thing as last year, although I think, Justin, correct me if I'm wrong, last year you kind of went off the grid a bit where you went with multiple quarterbacks for one team instead of one quarterback per. Because
he did. I actually rewatched
there were several quarterbacks that we thought might play during the season, and there were some backup quarterbacks that we thought were better. Well, yes, I thought were better than starters. I didn't do that this year.
Okay.
He had
32 starters.
Yeah.
That's it. Because I wanted to, I wanted to include some of those rookies, you know what I mean? That were
of course.
But
he had 2 Titans in his top 32 last year.
Which is 2 Titans too many. Let's be honest here. I remember last year that my 32nd was generic Arizona quarterback number 1, which made sense for that because but we have some obviously our 32 starters that we ranked 1 to 32. There will be some controversial choices, as you all know, but I've also got some honorable mentions because obviously I think some guys may supplant or some guys may start the year that we're not thinking about. So we'll roll with that. There will be lots of conjecture. There will be lots of battling between, but as is the case with everything that we do, we have to start with the fun because, as Jurg always says, fun football and chaos, although I think Bars might be trademarking that at some point somewhere down the line because, he's inserting himself into the show any further. I already gave you your mind-blowing fact. Yes, Jimmy Graham is planning to row across the Arctic in 2025. which is almost as good of a fact as Jared Allen looking to make the 2026 curling team for the Olympic Games. That's a fun one there too. But yeah, there you go. So I mean, listen, athletes are athletes, man. If he wants to row across the Arctic, more power to him. But just know that you can't slam dunk a football when you're in a kayak or in a rowboat because you will fall out of the rowboat. And in the Arctic, that's just a death sentence. Ask anyone who's on the Titanic back 100 years ago.
Or a certain submarine. Oh no, Rick, I was gonna say, because you mentioned Jared Allen. What's his name? Chase Budinger. He
just made the volleyball team. Yeah, beach volleyball. Yeah, Chase. Yeah, well, he played volleyball in high school, I think. I think he played in college a little bit too for Arizona, but I could be wrong about that because I don't know if Arizona actually has a team. But he was a very good volleyball player back in high school in his day. But not as great a basketball player as I think he would have anticipated being. But I mean, listen, beach volleyball. More power to them. The Americans need something in beach volleyball because after the early 2000s of the Misty May Kerry Walsh tandem, and even on the men's side with Dahlhauser and Rogers, it's just been trouble from there. The Brazilians keep winning all the time, and actually the Latvians are doing really well too, which is scary. I didn't know there were beaches in Latvia for them to play beach volleyball on, but Anyways, there you go. Yes, Jimmy Graham rowing across the Atlantic, the Arctic. Jeez, Gertrude Ederle, God damn it. Anywho's, so that's your mind-blowing fact of the week. Go look it up. And Justin is back with our new trivia segment, which is Guess the Player. So for context, we had done a discussion of something called Remember This Guy, Remember Him, in a way. And so this is kind of an offshoot of that because we could just literally do a whole 2.5-hour episode of just playing random Sporkle quizzes and picking random running backs, just going from there. But Justin has some method to his madness, and so I'm going to cede the floor to him, and let's see if he can get us with this Name the Player.
All right, guys. So this former player was born in San Francisco, California, was a standout in high school in both basketball and football, and was a 7th-round draft pick out of Kentucky.
Seventh-round draft pick out of Kentucky. I'm trying to think of who. No offense to Mark Stoops, but who are good Kentucky football players that have done anything of note. There's a name that has come to my mind already, but I don't know if he's a San Franciscan. And it's probably not because if this is the guy and this is a total shot in the dark, this is just ridiculous. If this is the answer here, so I'm gonna hold it off. But Jerk, do you have any ideas?
Not at all.
Okay.
I'm honestly useless right now, so I was just gonna throw out a name to be funny.
I'm gonna enter the first guess here. Lynn Bowden.
No, it is not Lynn Bowden.
Damn. Yeah.
Jared, who's your funny name?
Let's go with an oldie but a goodie. He definitely didn't go to Kentucky. Emmanuel Arsenault.
Ooh,
I like it. It. No, it is not Emmanuel Arsenault.
I'm gonna look up real quick where he went to school because this is just hilarious.
Yeah. All right. What do we got next?
All right. So obviously he was a 7th-round pick. His historic season in 2007 for Kentucky was over 1,000 yards and 13 touchdowns. He was I believe he was the 4th player in school history to go over 1,000 yards, and he ranked 2nd all-time in touchdowns. He was then drafted and went on to multiple 1,000-yard seasons as a wide receiver, playing for 3 different teams, but never received a Pro Bowl selection.
Well, you wouldn't if you're a 7th-round guy. Let's be honest here.
Multiple 1,000-yard seasons.
Yeah, I suppose.
Expecting the voters to give a guy his props is bold, to say the least.
Yeah, I agree with that. Kentucky. Huh. So it's a guy who he was a running back at Kentucky, and then they converted him to wide receiver. Or I'm trying to think in my head of
I did not say that.
Okay.
He only gave us 1,000 yards and touchdowns. He didn't say which one it was, Rick. So
yeah. Okay, that makes sense then. That's a tough one.
It's the 7th round part that's really getting me. Because despite the magic and the propaganda that is put out every year, like 6 and 7 round picks only hit so often.
I mean, Brock Purdy, say hello.
Every so often.
This is a tricky one because those 7th round guys are generally speaking also like D2s or FCS guys. They're very the ones that are drafted out of the prime schools are normally like fullbacks or kickers or something like that. They're not, or the ninth offensive lineman in Nick Saban's run. I'm trying to think. See, I mean, I'm even trying to pull a funny name out just to kind of and get that going. But 2007, 2008, somewhere around that run.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of receivers or backs who debuted in that time and we assume it's got to be good starts, but maybe not great ends of careers.
Yeah. You know what? Just to move things along, because I don't know. I'm going to go with another Kentucky guy, but he definitely did not do anything of note in college as a wide receiver. He was more of a quarterback, but I mean, he might have been a converted wide receiver in his time. Andre Woodson.
Ooh, I like the guess. No, it is not Andre Woodson.
Yeah.
That's
my knowledge on Kentucky football from NCAA football. The video games. That's all I got. So there you go.
I'm just naming guys who didn't go to the school, honestly, at this point. Which, by the way, I did my research. Emmanuel Arsenault went to Elkhorn State, and he was born in Louisiana.
Yeah,
I think I was like 20% right, given the geography of it.
Yeah. Okay. I'll give you that.
This is just going to be a BS second guess before my third guess somehow gets it right.
Chancey Stuckey.
You know what? Let's go with that.
He went to Clemson. I know that part for a fact. Yeah.
Stedman Bailey, actually. Second guess. That's totally wrong.
It is neither of those players, guys.
Yeah,
okay.
Not sure. All right. Okay.
Last round of guesses.
Last round. All right. So he was drafted in the 7th round, 224th overall by the Buffalo Bills. He also played for the San Francisco 49ers and the Chargers, considered one of the better draft steals in franchise history for the Buffalo Bills. He had finished his 8-season career with 4,764 receiving yards, 381 receptions, 34 touchdowns, although over 3,000 yards and 26 of his touchdowns happened in a 3-year span.
Well, there's only one name that comes to mind for me, Rick.
What do you got?
Stevie Johnson.
That's the name I'm thinking of, too. Buffalo Bills kind of gave that one away, yeah. All right. Enter it.
Yep.
All right. Stevie Johnson is the correct answer, guys.
Woo!
He was, late round steal out of Kentucky. I believe he did go to another school before that. Yes, Chabot in California.
Oh, like a JUCO.
A community. Yeah, he did a JUCO, and then Stevie Johnson was the answer to this week's. Can you guess that player?
I love that.
Wow.
He definitely would have been a guy if we would have all gone around and been like Rick was saying, the original concept of we each bring a player every week. He would have 100% been someone we brought, right?
That was the first player that came to mind when you.
He actually. Because that run, that 3-year span was really, really something.
Well, that's why it was surprising he never got a Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
He was a beast in Madden. He was great. Now, just to your point, it's very, and this goes to my see, I like to think I'm an equal opportunist when it comes to criticism. I criticize all aspects from all sports leagues, and award voting / all-star game selections in the case of the NFL, Pro Bowl, all pro, all NBA, whatever. Guys, the voters, I think a massive chunk of them don't actually do research. They quickly look up stats. They look up to see if established guys kept doing good. And if they did, they'll just slot them in somewhere. They don't care. They just don't care because Stevie Johnson putting together those seasons, were the Bills ever at or above 500 in any of those years? Maybe once. But like, that's one of those things where I just don't think a lot of voters, and again, this equal opportunities. This goes to every single league because Lord knows I've ranted about NBA voters to you both, at least off screen in the past. But like, there's no due diligence, I think, by a majority of voters. They don't care enough to really find guys who earn and deserve it. They don't. They just don't. Even when it comes to alternates and replacements. So like, it's one of those things that's kind of like lost to an extent, lost its luster for me. Because I feel like there's always going to be multiple occasions, whether it's the actual like physical awards or whether it's like the selections where it's like, okay, they definitely screwed something up here.
Well, I kind of like how the MLB does the All-Star game now, where you have to have a player from every team, even if the team is like 19 and 106. They have to have somebody there. I will say this though, I did look up his first really good year with Stevie Johnson's first was 2010. Buffalo was 4-12. They were not a good team that year. But the four guys from the AFC that were all pro were I think you could say that of after them, Johnson was probably fifth because it was Reggie Wayne was the first team all pro that year. Andre Johnson, of course, who we know, I think Hall of Famer. And then the other two names that are kind of like the surprises that could have potentially been on Justin's name, that player, but I'm not sure. Brandon Lloyd from the Broncos. Remember how good he was in 2010? And one of the best fantasy names here, because everyone in 2010 was doing somewhere over Dwayne Bowe.
I was going to say he had one good season, right?
Yeah. Yep. 2010 was Dwayne Bowe's good season. So, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, you're probably right. Like, they look at the 4-12 and they're like, well, no one good is from there. But I personally, I would prefer it if they did, one player at minimum from each team goes to the Pro Bowl, because that way you have some representation from everybody there, even if the guy barely gets in. Like, that guy, that random reliever on the Oakland Athletics, Mason Miller, is probably going to get, an inning in the All-Star game or a batter in the All-Star game. And it's like, oh, yeah, Oakland's here. And that's going to be a score sign. Oh, they're going to Vegas. So, who cares? But, yeah, good stuff there, Justin, with Stevie Johnson.
And some names there at the end by us where it's like, oh, Justin's going to keep him in the back of the chamber for future use.
You know what, though? There are so many names that we could probably run through that, like, I'm sure Justin's got a whole, like, iPhone note list of just, like, 5 pages of names of random people.
Let me tell you, Dwayne Bowe was on that list.
There we go.
Of course he was.
He's going to have to give it a while, but Dwayne Bowe will be brought back.
Dwayne Bowe he will come back into some form eventually, maybe in like 2026 when we forget all about him, which is,
par for the course.
Everyone else forgot about him anyways, too. All right. Well, that's a good one. I appreciate that, Justin, as always. Jerg, we thank you for your contributions and just being here, because the rest of us are just running the games right now as we go for it. But what do you say we get to the crux of today's show, which is the NFL quarterback rankings for the year 2024. 32 teams, 32 starting quarterbacks, 32 spots to rank them in, or 33 if you really want to put Bryce Young at 33rd. That's fine by me. I'm fair with that too. There are some interesting rankings that we had last year, and there was some interesting quarterback movement from this past season. Some of these guys got hurt. Some of these guys had breakout years. Some of these guys had fallback years. And some of these guys were picked in controversial spots last year by yours truly, who will still be in those controversial spots this year or further down the rankings. So it's going to be interesting to say the least. We had a few that we were tossing up pre-show this week of like maybe the 5 quarterback battles we were thinking of going into this season. But we kind of settled those debates. So if you believe that a quarterback is going to win their battle in camp that's not on this ranking list, hey, comment on the video, tweet at us. Yeah. We'll take all considerations into account here. But I do want to say, before we begin our ranking 32, I want to go over a few honorable mention names that I had, just as kind of like an idea of like, guys that probably are backups, but that could maybe see playing time and could have cracked this list if they were on a different team. So if you'll indulge me. And again, if you're watching this thinking about your own list, the guys that are here in this list if they're backups to you, it's because they lost the quarterback battle in our mind, or in my mind at least. They could disagree if they want to, but that's completely fine. Gardner Minshew. We did not have him winning his battle with Aiden O'Connell. I think he's a guy that, he's a journeyman. Uncle Rico is a journeyman quarterback in this league, no question about it. But I think that the case for this Raiders team with Antonio Pierce being there as the head coach now, the permanent head coach from last year, is that even though Aiden O'Connell was a 5th round quarterback pick last year, I feel like, and you guys can disagree or agree, I feel like they're going to give him the run, kind of like how Houston gave Davis Mills a couple of years to see if he's really the guy to supplant this team. Because again, if it wasn't that, there were a lot of quarterbacks that went before the Raiders picked. And I mean, this was a quarterback heavy first round. So they seem to like Aiden O'Connell. I think he's got some upside, but I don't know. Him and Minshew could be an interesting battle going forward in this camp.
Yeah, I know. I'm with you. When you texted, I agreed. And even we talk about Davis Mills, we could even just look back to last season, a guy that we put in our rankings. I'm pretty sure we all kept him somewhere in the bottom 3. But Sam Howell, he was given 1 year as the leader of the Commanders. Be like, all right, see what you can do. If he surprised them last year and they had somehow shockingly made the wild card, he would still be there. But he just isn't. So I agreed when we discussed that. It's like, yeah, no, I think they're going to give the young kid a chance. And this could very much be a case where by week 5 or 6, if it's just not panning out, then Minshew enters in. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think Minshew's like I said, serviceable backup quarterback. And just to really recap last year's last year's stuff for O'Connell, he played in 11 games, started 10, 5-5 record for the Raiders, 62% completion percentage, 2,200 yards, 12 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. I mean, look. I'm not going to say anything about him, but Mac Jones had a year similar to that. He was a starter in New England. So, I mean, for a guy coming in, that's an interesting one. And it's funny because the reason why Aiden O'Connell got really his run was because of another guy who I have as an honorable mention, but for a different reason. Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy G's the backup quarterback with the Rams now. And one misstep by Matt Stafford, which is possible considering how old he is, and Justin, Jimmy G could be the guy in LA to supplant. Because Stafford, again, we talked about it a little bit last week. Stafford, he can have one good year, then get hurt the next year. Or one good year and have a bad year the next year. So Jimmy G's in a good spot to kind of reclaim that glory because, let's be honest here, the clock's ticking on Garoppolo.
I mean, in theory, it's the same issue with Jimmy Garoppolo, right? I mean, he could be good one year and then hurt the next year. Yeah. So it's an interesting choice as a backup, especially with a guy who's a little bit older now, has had shoulder issues, and really didn't look great throwing the ball last year. But they needed a backup there, and they needed a savvy veteran, and it made sense to bring in a guy with the experience that Jimmy Garoppolo has, that in theory can step in and won't really miss a beat when throwing to those electric receivers that they have there, and Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua.
Yeah.
Hopefully he doesn't get hurt, and we don't have to see any Jimmy Garoppolo this year. Nothing against Jimmy Garoppolo. They're just better with Matt Stafford, but yeah.
Yeah. And again, if it's not Garoppolo or Stafford, the third string is Stetson Bennett. So, could be bad. Could be bad for the Rams.
Is he still on the no football list?
He might be, which is why I think they have Dresser win as the fourth stringer. But when your name is Dresser, I think you're better suited for Tommy Hilfiger than Tom Brady football. Back to the AFC, Jared Stidham is another name that we batted around a bunch. I don't have him on mine. I'm not sure if you guys have him on yours, but that Denver quarterback battle is going to be interesting with the 3 guys that are there. But I think Zach Wilson, Justin and I can say this, he's not really factoring in for anything. And Stidham's a guy who has some starting experience. But again, when you draft a quarterback as high as Denver did, you kind of think that he's going to be the guy, especially with considering Bo Nix is an older prospect. So I think that, I think he'll win that battle as a rookie. But a rookie that I don't think will win the battle is J.J. McCarthy. I just think that Sam Darnold's going to have that spot because I think McCarthy's not pro ready yet.
I agree on both of those accounts. I went as both of those guys as my starters and then the other guys as my backups. That's also how ESPN has it, which is what I used a lot of weight. I put a lot of weight into that choices as well, just specifically for my rankings for week 1, day 1 starters.
Yeah. And 2 other names that I'm going to throw out there for you. Drake May. Look, third overall pick. The Patriots don't really have much, and so this is kind of where he's going to tie in with the other guy that I'm going to mention later. I think the Patriots are better off letting Drake May sit and figure things out because you've got Jacoby Brissett, who I think should be the starter in week 1 because he's definitely a more pro-ready quarterback than Drake May is. I understand that you want to see what the kid can do, but you don't have the team to have him go out there himself because if you want to do the right thing and you sit Drake May, unlike what the Bears did with Justin Fields, who's the other guy I want to bring up, Justin Fields, his career got hurt immediately because Matt Nagy threw him out to the wolves and he got concussed maybe 95 times in one play.
Yeah.
So,
no line.
Yeah.
And wasn't his first game Justin Fields the Cleveland Browns defense and they got like 8 or 9 sacks on him?
Yes, I believe so.
You talk about throwing a kid to the wolves, man.
Yeah.
No, Rick. To the last couple names you said there, Rick, I've agreed on all of them, especially with the Patriots. I think the Patriots are also in no rush. They don't need May to start right away. They just don't. I think of the first 3 QBs selected, I think he is the one that definitively needs the most time to get acclimated to things. Especially because, despite our disagreements with it, Chicago, at least, it's an established system there, right?
Mm.
On the Commanders side, you have at least a guy who's been a head coach in the league before, is the offensive coordinator now, and a veteran head coach. A first-time head coach there in New England, and I don't know who the offensive coordinator is off the top of my head, but it's probably someone relatively young. I could be wrong. If I am, I am. But it's one of those things where just give the kid the time he needs. And realistically, Drake May, if you give him the time, he comes in, he's probably going to be around where we would rank Brissett. Realistically, it's kind of interchangeable to me. I'm almost a 1-for-1 of wherever I have Brissett ranked personally. I think I could just easily put May in there and then say la vie. That it's fine. So that's my take there. And real quick on the Broncos, they better hope Bo Nix can win that QB competition because there ain't that much competition there.
To answer your question, by the way, the Patriots offensive coordinator was the Browns quarterback coach last year. Not a young guy by any means, Alex Van Pelt, who's been in the league for quite a long time, 54 years old, was drafted in 1993. So they have a seasoned hand at the OC spot. But again, when you're relying on your wide receiver
new to the team, though, is the thing.
Yeah. When you're relying on a wide receiver core that includes Pop Douglas and Keyshawn Boutte, nah, man, no way. So, all right. So without further ado, I do have some other names that are on there, but they're all backups. They're all just straight backups. I mean, Joe Flacco, straight backup. Yep, Drew Lock, Cooper Rush, Taylor Heineke, Andy Dalton, all straight backups. Although Dalton should probably not be a backup, let's be honest here. But Jake Browning, yes, of course. Tyrod Taylor, I guess, if we want to go with the Jets. But
an interesting one that I have is Sam Howell.
Yeah, Sam Howell I had on there too. Yeah, I mean, again, that's one that I think you could see Geno possibly. If he does have a little bit, but Howell's younger, so we'll see. I mean, it could be.
I would think they're gonna. I don't expect to see him this year, but I think maybe long term you end up seeing him.
I think so.
If they like him in camp.
I think that's fair. All right, so let's go with our bottom tier. If you guys want to do 25 to 32, like how we did last year, we'll do that. So we'll go from bottom to top because that's just better for the purposes of the show. Because I hate seeing that. A little side rant here. I hate seeing a listicle that comes out where the number 1 is the top one that you see. So you guys go all the way down to the bottom without seeing number 1 and then go all the way up. Do better, everybody.
This show is all for seeing who ranks at the bottom of the barrel of the list. And
absolutely.
Seeing who we agree or not.
So how about we go with the Sun God, Justin? You can run first. You're 32 to 25 on your quarterback rankings.
All right. Well, I'm going to start with, I guess, a little bit of controversy. And number 32 for me is Deshaun Watson. I mean, he was banged up a lot last year. He really, really struggled. What was their record with him? 1-4? Or was it 1-4-1, I think it was?
Yeah.
It wasn't good. He had okay stats. He had over 1,000 yards in 6 games. He had 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, a lot of fumbles. I just think after however many years off that he ended up not playing football and all of the hype and all of the trade assets that they gave up for him, for a win now team, because that's what they were going into this season. They had a fantastic defense. They were deep at receiver. They had a lot. They have a great running game, assuming Nick Chubb can stay healthy. And he didn't stay healthy this year, but they still had a decent running game after the fact. And he was the reason they were losing games. It was not good. So Deshaun Watson has a lot to prove in my mind. We haven't seen the Pro Bowl top QB Deshaun Watson in, I guess, 4 or 5 years now. Yeah. And until he proves that he can get that back, he's 32 for me. I had a little bit more of a struggle with my 31. I put Aiden O'Connell there. I liked what he did last year, and I think that there's a lot of upside. But you know me, I'll give you your props when you prove to me you deserve them. And Aiden O'Connell just hasn't done that yet in the league. I like his situation. I like his receivers, but I don't know what offensively the game plan is going to be there. And I'm just not sure we don't see Gardner Minshew in week 5 or 6. Maybe just, I don't know. Aiden O'Connell came in garbage time and late in the season, and he had some good moments, but it's not like he was lighting the world on fire against some bad teams with nothing to play for. So Aiden O'Connell is my 31. My number 30 right now is Bo Nix. I have him as the starter day one. ESPN has him as a starter in day one. I love the system for him with Sean Payton in Denver. I think it's a great fit. I just don't know that we see a ton of success year one. It's not everyone comes in and lights the world on fire like CJ Stroud. It's rare. It might happen. And if you're telling me Bo Nix comes in and is incredibly accurate and doesn't make a ton of mistakes, maybe they win some games. But I'm not really seeing more than maybe 200 yards, a touchdown and a half a game for him. Obviously, you want to make sure he doesn't make some of those rookie mistakes that he does, but he doesn't seem like that kind of quarterback to me. I do expect him to at least have a couple of years starting. I don't expect Zach Wilson to come in and supplant him unless there's some sort of injury. So Bo Nix is my number 30. At 29, I have Daniel Jones. This dude has a lot to prove, and I'm not sure they did him any favors. I like Jalen Hyatt. Supposedly Malik Neighbors is a monster in camp. We've heard camp whispers coming out of New York for every player that has ever been drafted in the first round for years and years and years now. And it's not always right. In fact, most of the time it's not. As a Jets fan, I would know. That being said, I don't know that Daniel Jones is the guy there anymore. I mean, I was a defender going into last year, but he didn't really exactly prove me wrong when he was on the field. Now, I know he had a ton of injury, and I know that things didn't really go the way they wanted to go, but the year before, he had a career season, and they led the league in drops, I believe. Last year, maybe they just didn't have the talent at receiver, but I couldn't have been worse than the year before, and it didn't look good. I don't know if he's the guy there. This might be the last year we see Danny Dimes trotting out in a blue uniform. He's going to be my 29th ranked quarterback. At 28, I kind of felt like it was interchangeable here. This is just a placeholder guy. It's Jacoby Brissett in New England. He's not a terrible quarterback, but we know what he is. I mean, he's consistently in situations where, yes, he's the starter, but he's the starter because it's either a rookie or a guy got hurt, or he's not a starting quarterback really in the NFL in my mind. He could have been anywhere in that 31 to 28 range, I guess. It is what it is. At 27, we have, everyone here is a big fan of this guy on the podcast. On the Steelers, we have Russell Wilson. And listen, 27 for me is kind of low. I feel like we could see Russell Wilson really move up this list now. He's not going to get away with the things that he got away when he had a little bit too much freedom in Denver. They're really going to game plan correctly. He's got receivers that like to go out, and he's still got the ability to throw that long ball. He's still going to be a tenacious guy. He's going to keep coming at you, even if you don't like him. He's going to keep coming. I do think we could see him move up this list. But at 32 years old, 33 years old, when he hasn't had a good season since before. I mean, realistically, he had a decent season in Seattle his last year, but it wasn't like he lit the world on fire. We haven't seen that guy in a number of years. And until we see that guy, he's 27th overall. 26, we're going to have our second rookie at Jaden Daniels. Yes, I really like Jaden Daniels. I think it's going to take some time to develop in a new system in Washington. They went out, they have some decent receivers, they have a decent run game. Their offensive line could use work from last year. I don't remember offhand exactly what they did in the offseason, but I'm sure they put in work to improve that. They have a new coach. It's going to be an interesting, fast-paced, and exciting offense for them. I do expect to see some positives there. But in terms of single-season success, I'm not taking him to be a fantasy quarterback. Well, maybe if you're like a dynasty league, but a fantasy quarterback, I'm not expecting him to be a top 10 statistical quarterback. But if you're telling me he's got a rookie season like Jalen Hurts did, I'm not really super surprised. It's the same kind of mold. They have him in a decent situation. I think it's just going to take some time to grow. And at number 25, Sammy the Savior, Sam Darnold, comes in, and he holds the place for what seems to be struggling JJ McCarthy. If you listen to the smoke and reports coming out of Minnesota, but he will start day one. He will come in. It's going to be interesting to see how long he holds on to that position. Week 8. When's their bye? Is it like a midseason bye? Maybe we see McCarthy out the bye. I don't know. But if you're telling me that we have Sam Darnold for 7 games, JJ McCarthy for 6 games, and then Sam Darnold for another few games, I'm not surprised.
Their bye is week 6, by the way, the Vikings, after the game against the Jets at Tottenham. So they have a long off period, and then they come back on October 20th to host the Detroit Lions.
So it's going to be very dependent on what their record is after 5 games.
I'd say so.
And you know what? Even after the bye, it's hard to justify being like, long trip, bye, tough team. Are you really going to throw in JJ McCarthy to the Wolves there?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, depending on the practice, it could also be the perfect time to reset the team and give the kids some more time. So, I mean, you never know. It could go either way.
Very good. So, run through your 32 to 25 again, Justin, for the people at home.
32, we have Deshaun Watson. 31, we have Aiden O'Connell. 30 is Bo Nix. 29 is Daniel Jones. 28 is Jacoby Brissett. 27 is Russell Wilson. 26 is Jaden Daniels. And 25, Sammy the Savior, Sam Darnold.
An interesting mixture there of veterans who are on their, as Jared would say, last chance saloon, and rookies who are trying to make their impact in the fold of everything. I'll go next just because I have a few names that are similar to Justin here. But as I said, there would not be a list of quarterback rankings without some controversy here. And Deshaun Watson being at 32 is an interesting choice for 32. I understand your reasoning for it, but I do think he has some greater talent than some of the guys that are in my bottom quadrant of my rankings.
Rick, just rip off the Band-Aid. Tanner McKee, 32. We already know it.
No.
Tanner McKee starting day one.
Right.
For Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, no, of course not. My 32 is Bo Nix. Similar vibe. Like, if you can't beat Jared Stidham and Zach Wilson out of camp, then, what are we doing here? Why do we waste this pick on a quarterback? And I get that he's an older prospect. Denver, needs a prime quarterback option here, and Bo Nix might be the guy. But if it doesn't work out, then I think you're going to see some movement with the Broncos too. They're going to be a deadline deal team going forward. So I hope he does well, but let's see what happens here. This is going to be a little harsh, but 31 is Bryce Young. Sorry, but like Justin said with Aiden O'Connell, it's the same exact thing. You have to prove to me that you are worthy of being a number 1 overall pick. And last year, I know the team was struggling and the team was not very good, but here's the thing about that. Good quarterbacks find ways to make a mediocre team good or a good team great. I mean, look at the last few years of Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. They've taken guys who have not been stars and have made them like significant weapons. At some point you have to be able to turn these guys into quality players. And I get that you had no line, but you're the number 1 overall pick. You got to show it. Otherwise, you're turning towards Jamarcus Russell territory. That's not territory anybody wants to be near for a variety of reasons. Number 30 for me is Will Levis. Again, he's not a guy that I would say showed me a whole heck of a lot last year. You got a brand new offensive-minded head coach. If you can't make it work with Brian Callahan's offense, when are you going to make it work? And it's ironic that we're talking Kentucky because Will Levis is a Kentucky boy. But, now it's going to be a question of, can you actually do the job? You were a highly rated prospect that fell to the second round. You won the job away from Ryan Tannehill, who's no longer there, thank goodness. But prove it. Prove that you won the job for a reason here. That's number 30 for me. 29 is going to be a little bit – this one's going to be controversial because I know that he's going to be higher because of talent rating. But last year, he wasn't ready, and it showed. And so I'm waiting for this year. Anthony Richardson, for me, is 29. Because we knew going in that he was a raw talent quarterback. And the Colts, as good as they were last year, that was because they had Gardner Minshew. Now if Anthony Richardson gets hurt, you have Joe Flacco again, which I guess, good for the quarterbacks. But what does that say about your starting quarterback that you drafted so highly that, he can't stay on the field? World of talent, but very raw player, very tough player to gauge. So I have him here at 29. 28 for me is Sam Darnold because, again, placeholder. We know that McCarthy's going to start at some point, but Darnold is the more polished quarterback, but that's not saying much for Minnesota. 27, Jacoby Brissett, same vibe. We know that Drake May is going to start at some point, but still, at least it's a veteran quarterback. It's not like it's Tyson Bagent. No offense, Tyson Bagent out of Shepherd University, but same vibes there. Where am I here? 26, Daniel Jones. It's a prove-it year. You've got to prove it to me this year that you are a good enough quarterback in this league. And then 25, Russell Wilson, because the Danger Witch vibes are still right there. I'm sorry. Not ideal. So, Bo Nix, 32, Bryce Young, 31, Will Levis, 30, Anthony Richardson, 29, Sam Darnold, 28, Jacoby Brissett, 27, Daniel Jones, 26, and Russell Wilson, 25. And if you think the controversy is ending here, there's more to come. A lot more to come. But, Jurg, you have your own bottom quadrant of the rankings, so I don't know if there are names that are similar here, but feel free to.
There definitely are.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think we have some similar names, so feel free to digress or feel free to disagree, whatever you think. Go ahead.
Real quick, I want to say for the record, Ryan Tannehill is 65th on my list, so best of the third stringers if he ever makes it on the team. So 65.
Wait, you have him better than Rocky Lombardi?
No, he's 64.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got you. All right, 32nd on my list, Sam Darnold. Look, Sammy, you're a body at this point. you're just there. He's a meat puppet, realistically, for Minnesota to get JJ as quickly up to speed with Kevin O'Connell's playbook as long as possible. I think, honestly, JJ McCarthy is kind of saving Kevin O'Connell because I think Minnesota is going to try to give the kid some consistency early in his career. And I think they're really going to hope that KOC and JJM, all the alliteration there, or not alliteration, all the abbreviations there, can work together for the future. So I think that's what it is. Sam Darnold's just there. It takes some lumps at the beginning. Probably at some point, I think definitely after the bye, but I don't think the first game after the bye because it's still too early in the season. I would expect a midway point of the year. I don't know what the stretch games looks like after that Detroit game. Maybe after 2-3 more games after the bye, you make the switch and you give the kid the last half of the season to work some magic if there's whatever he can in his rookie year and then go from there. But Sam Darnold's 32 for me. 31, Aiden O'Connell. You guys have said everything. The kid had a moment or two last year, but it wasn't anything super consistent. His biggest win last year, he completed 8 passes in that Chiefs win that they had. That was strictly the running game and the defense right there and controlling the clock, essentially. We want to praise Antonio Pierce, and now there's a new general manager there in Tom Telesco, which there's no loyalty whatsoever to Aiden O'Connell being the guy long term, definitively. This is as you guys have said, show us what you got kind of year. If there's something there, all the power to Antonio Pierce. That dude could create diamonds out of coal, but I'm not seeing it as of now. 30 Bo Nix, like he could be good, but at the same time, I just think that he has Cortland Sutton there, which is nice, right? That's honestly a pretty good wide receiver one to have for your rookie campaign. But it's more the depth surrounding him. It's like what is the rest of the skill position group to support him? It's a decent offensive line, at least you could say, and then they're really going all in with the fact that they believe the kid could fit in the system. I still think it's going to take some time. Who's the last person to master Sean Payton's offense? That was Drew Brees, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. There's a lot of expectations there. So I'll give the kid a little bit of time, but I still think he just in terms of a skill set thing, he deserves to be a little bit higher than some guys, which is why I have him at 30. 29, Daniel Jones. So I don't know if Justin copied me or if I copied Justin. I don't know who sent spies out there, but we have I think the exact same 31 through 29. Look, Daniel Jones, I just haven't seen it. I've been a Daniel Jones denier on this podcast many times, despite the fact I also made up the nickname after that one playoff game win of a Danny Dollar Signs. But I think that currency is falling much harder than it did in Greece back in the 2010s because it is it's not looking good anymore, to say the very least. No, man, the one career year where he did great, he threw 15 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. I'm never a fan of a quarterback that you have to hide to get your team wins. I'm just not. Like, if you need to hide the guy that's supposed to be the most important position on the field, no, that's an automatic withdrawal from me on any vote of confidence whatsoever. He can perform fine this year, but fine isn't good enough anymore. It's just not. In this league, being paid the money he is, there's going to be a replacement there at the quarterback spot really quickly if he doesn't somehow unlock 3 other levels of potential that we haven't seen yet. So I have him as 29. Look at me being nice to Tennessee Titans quarterbacks now. I have Will Levis at 28.
I mean, to be fair, Justin's nicer than the both of us. He didn't have him in his bottom 4, so
Very true. I think that Justin. I think that Will Levis. The mayonnaise is coursing through his veins. The banana peels are giving him the energy he needs. But in all seriousness, there is some legitimate talent in that wide receiver room. The kid has an arm. He just needs to put it together. We kind of talked about this weeks back. I forget when exactly we discussed it or what the topic of the episode was. But we talked about how Will Levis would have a game where he would, be pretty good, 250, 300 yards, a couple touchdowns, and maybe they won the game. And then the very next game, just not great, like a touchdown, 2 interceptions. Consistency, I think, is key for him. I think there's something potentially there, but like you said, Rick, this is big. Callahan being there, being an offensive-minded coach, a wide receiver room of, granted, he's old, DeAndre Hopkins. Granted, he might get kicked out the league after this season, Calvin Ridley, and a guy who we're still waiting to be good from his first-round pedigree as well. There's Traylon Burks. There are, there's talent there, but oh, mamma mia, there's also a lot of recipe to go wrong. But I'll give the kid credit. He showed us a little bit of something last year. I think, was it his first or second career start? He just popped off for 300 yards. I
think the second one, yeah.
So there could potentially be something there. We have to wait and see. Bryce Young, I'm so sorry. You're 27. I don't think everything is his fault there. I think that offensive, scheming room from head coach to offensive coordinator to quarterbacks coach, there was a lot of different philosophy. The phrase "too many cooks in the kitchen." The Carolina Panthers, if we equate the coaching staff to a kitchen, they would have been on kitchen nightmares, and Gordon Ramsay would have been coming in there at some point last season if we had Hard Knocks. It would not have been great for Carolina, to say the very least. If there is if it's nailed down the direction they want to go in, and if they can figure out how to use Bryce Young's skill set, I think there is some room for him to move a little bit higher on this list. But I got to go with 27 right now. But I have that high because I think his upside is higher than the guys I have below him so far. And then 26, Jacoby Brissett, solid veteran. If this was wrestling, he knows how to put guys over eventually. But you could give him a mid-card title for a bit, and he could go on the run for 2-3 months with it. Better than anybody in AEW, definitely. And I think ultimately Jacoby Brissett's going to do a good enough job. I think six weeks or so, help bring Drake May along, and then that's when the peaceful transition of power can occur. So we have that happening there. So I have Jacoby Brissett 26, and then 25, Anthony Richardson. I think he is probably the guy I'm looking at to most jump up from this bottom quadrant. because the talent is there. I think the raw skill is there. The kid has the arm. He has the running ability. He's big. He's tough. He's physical. That's part of the issue, though. He's a glutton for punishment. And I hope one of the things they drilled into his skull throughout the course of the season, ever since he got hurt, and now that Joe Flacco, I hope Joe Flacco's communicated with him of, hey, kid, if you want to last in this league, don't throw your body at everybody. You know,
or don't. I still got legs under me. I can play. You know,
right. But realistically, Flacco's probably like, hey, you don't have to be Superman every time. You know, you want to see how it really affects someone, Cam Newton. And if you want to check back in 2 years' time how it affects someone, Josh Allen. Like, those are guys that have taken a lot of hits in their career. And the fact that Anthony Richardson didn't get to play his full rookie season is why I think he has to be in this bottom quadrant as well. We saw some flashes in that time, but also I think the completion percentage just wasn't there. And I think he needs to get that up. You know, they have some consistency coming back in that skill position with Michael Pittman being the number one guy. I think that's a big help. And Shane Steichen in year 2, I think this is a guy that he's been waiting to work with again. I think there's a lot of positive stuff to look forward to in Indy. We just haven't seen it yet, ultimately. So that's it. That is my 25. So real quick, I'll run through my 32 to 25 again. Sam Darnold, 32. Aiden O'Connell, 31. Bo Nix, 30. Daniel Jones, 29. Will Levis, 28. Bryce Young, 27. Jacoby Brissett, 26. / Drake May. I feel like Drake May could potentially slot in easily there once he takes over. And then Anthony Richardson at 25.
Yeah, I feel like I think Richardson was under 60% completion percentage before he got hurt last year. So yeah, he was making throws that were, you know, wild in how, you know, impressive they were, but no one was there.
Yeah, that's very true.
It's like the baseball. A long foul ball down the left field line is just a loud strike. You know,
it's so true.
A 45-yard heave down the field to no one is just an incomplete pass. So, all right. So now we're on to the third quadrant of 8, and I can already imagine there's going to be some interesting names that were omitted from, you know, just because correct me if I'm wrong, Justin, I don't believe you put Caleb Williams in your bottom quadrant. So I'm curious to see if he's in because there's no way he's on the top 16 already. Let's be honest here. He hasn't even played it down in the NFL. So Justin, where does Caleb Williams rank in your 17 through 24? And what's the rest of your third tier of rankings?
All right. Well, if you want to start with Caleb Williams, we'll start at number 22. I like Caleb Williams. I do think that he's going to have a very good year this year. I do love the skill position players that they put around him. They've worked on that offensive line. The running game is going to be strong. They have tight receivers. I love Romo Odunze coming out. I like DJ Moore there. I love Keenan Allen there. They still have Cole Kmet. There's so many reasons to be happy with Caleb Williams. But the one question I have is this offensive system going to be there next year? If he comes out and he is excellent for a rookie quarterback and they still go 6-11.
Yeah.
What more can you expect from a rookie quarterback? Mm-hmm. He could light the world on fire and the team still goes 6-11. The defense is porous because it wasn't great last year. And now all of a sudden you got a new system in there. Are they keeping the same guys? Keenan Allen's owed a lot of money. Is he a free agent? Did they sign him to an extension?
I believe he's a free agent after this year.
So Keenan Allen might be gone.
Yeah.
DJ Moore, how many years does he have left in his contract?
Is 1 or 2. He's going to want to get paid. DJ Moore's going to want to get paid.
Yes, he is.
Is Cole Kmet? So there's so many questions that I have. I do think that he's going to be very good this year. He's going to show why he was the number 1 overall pick. I don't know about that Bears team as a whole. Mm-hmm. And I expect him to have a good year. But he's 22.
Yeah. We're
going to backtrack a little bit, and we're going to go back to 24 because that's where we left off last time. And for that, I have Derek Carr. Derek Carr was disappointing last year.
Yeah.
He was. I mean, it's not like we expected him to take a step forward, but he seemingly took a major step back, especially in games where they needed him to be the guy. And he just wasn't. At this point, you know, he's a placeholder in my mind for the next spot, which is rough because they have a very good team down there in New Orleans. They have very good receivers. Kamara's still there. They have a great running game. They have a good offensive line. Their defense was really good last year. And the issue kind of seemingly is at coaching and quarterback, which is such a tough spot for that team to be in. So I have Derek Carr at 24. At 23, I have him the highest out of you guys. I have Bryce Young. And part of why I made my rankings the way it is, I mean, I took into account the system, I took into account the coaching, I took into account the schedule, but part of what I like to do with these guys is if I have a perfect situation, who am I putting at quarterback in this situation? And I still think that there's lots of talent in Bryce Young. I think that the accuracy is there. He's got to settle down a little bit. I love the head coach they brought in. I think that he's proven now that he's very good at putting quarterbacks in the right position to succeed. And I do think Bryce Young takes a step forward this year, but even a step forward out of last year is still 24. 23, my apologies. We did 22. Can't keep up. Caleb Williams. 21 is the former Ring of Honor consideration, Geno Smith. And I like Geno Smith. I think that it's kind of rough that he only had success late in his career because, to me, the downswing is here. And I don't expect it to be him falling off a cliff. This is year 2 of his 3-year extension, if I'm not mistaken. If you're telling me that Sam Howell starts midway through year 3, are you surprised? He's younger. He's got the arm talent. He's can do more of what they want him to do. Geno's starting to be in is he 34 now? 35? I mean, he had a good year last year. They would have liked him to be better in big spots. He's a good quarterback, and he did not get his fair shot, I think, in the league. He was drafted by the Jets, unfortunately for him. That never works out for a quarterback. And he bounced around. He made something out of a journeyman career quarterback. He is responsible for keeping Seattle relevant as of right now. But it's going to be a new system with a new coach now. It's going to be interesting to see how they treat their receivers there. I mean, they still got DK, but, Lockett's another year older. Jackson Smith and Jigba, I think, was a little bit of a disappointment compared to what they expected last year. He had a decent rookie season, but he just wasn't what they expected, I think, out of the slot. And their running backs were hurt. Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet, they took a beating last year. So I like Geno. I don't love Geno. I'm not taking him if I'm drafting a quarterback. He's not my guy, at least not at this point in his career. And he's going to be my 21st overall quarterback. How far down am I going? To 16?
Yep. It's 24 to 17.
24 to 17. All right. Yep. Well, that makes number 20, again, the highest out of the 3 of us, Will Levis. I like the system that they have Will Levis in, and I think he has the tools. The issue in my mind is, can he put together that consistency, which Jurg is absolutely correct. But listen, Calvin Ridley had a very good year last year when he was healthy on the field. DeAndre Hopkins is still DeAndre Hopkins at 31 years old. You can't change my mind. I mean, when he was hit, he made great plays. He had great games. He came on towards the end of last year, especially when Levis was there. They have a full offseason now. The question is, do they have the support of a running game? Which is a major thing. Derrick Henry is no longer there, and they're going to make Will Levis beat you now. That's just the way it is. So can they get Calvin Ridley involved? Can they get DeAndre Hopkins involved? I'm told that Treylon Burks is running special teams right now, earning his spot on the field. So I don't even think he's the number 3 receiver there. It's probably Westbrook Akina. They still have Chiggy Okonkwo, who was excellent as a tight end for them. I expect him to have a bounce-back year statistically this year. I have Will Levis at number 20. At 19, I have AR. Guys, he was really good when he was on the field last year. The only issue that anyone had with AR's game was that he took nasty hits. And that's where the maturity is going to come in. Obviously, you want him to stay on the field this year. He's going to have to learn to run out of bounds instead of taking a hit. You don't need a first down week 2 when you're 1-0 in a game against an NFC team. You know what I mean? Like, stay on the field, make smarter decisions. But I think that they have a winner in AR. I mean, from what we saw, he was the reason they were winning games last year. in that first stretch. Gardner Minshew kept them in games, and they were winning when Gardner Minshew was there with their defense, which was excellent, and their running game, which Jonathan Taylor came back. He was very good for them. So I expect AR to have a healthier year, hopefully, and that'll prove why he deserves to be a top 20 quarterback in this league. 18, we have Baker Mayfield. I really like what they did with Baker last year, but now that they're going to have a new offensive coordinator, I'm curious to see what they do now with the same tools. They did a very good job of putting Baker in correct situations. And believe it or not, with that stacked wide receiver room, there was a lot of drops last year. Even with Mike Evans, I remember Mike Evans dropping a short touchdown late in the season, and I was just like shocked, especially after the year he had. But Evans is back. I think it's a major addition for them. I expect them to try and get Chris Godwin involved a little bit more this year. And I think Baker can have a similar season to last year. And that's really all they can ask for. Hopefully the defense is solid and Baker has a comparable season, a comparable season, and they can maybe, sneak in a playoff win again or a playoff run again. Did they win? They won the first game, right?
Yeah, they beat the Eagles. Yeah.
Yeah. So Baker the playmaker. At 17, we have an aging Matthew Stafford. Love him. Love the guy. I think that he is, at this point, a benefit of the system he plays in and the receivers that catch his balls. Because, Puka and Cooper Kupp can catch it on a slant route and just break it open. And he is so good at finding them there. But this is not the Matthew Stafford that we drafted number 1 overall 15 years ago, 13 years ago. He's a good quarterback. He's 17th out of 32, right in the middle of the pack. And at his age, after his injuries and his career, that's a pretty solid spot to be in. He could prove us all wrong, but he could just as easily get hurt and be out the rest of the season. And then we're spending one more offseason debating whether or not Matthew Stafford retires and leaves the Rams in shambles.
That seems like obvious that he whenever he does retire, the Rams are still going to be in shambles. Again.
Well, they have some time to figure it out as of right now, but
yeah,
we'll see.
They do. So just recap that 24-17 there, Justin. For
absolutely. 24 is Derek Carr. 23, Bryce Young. 22, Caleb Williams. 21, Geno Smith. 20, Will Levis. 19, Anthony Richardson. 18, Baker Mayfield. And 17, we have Matthew Stafford.
Well, that's a very, very good third tier right there. I have no faults or issues with it. Unlike my 17 to 24, which I know there's one ranking that I'm going to get a lot of flack for. And if you remember our rankings last year, you'll know exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing. And you'll understand because it's the same name from last year. Just spoiler alert for those of us that watched from last year. 24 for me is Deshaun Watson. Yeah, he did not have a good year last year, but I think he still has enough talent and enough pedigree to cement himself back in the Browns' good graces as their starting quarterback. Again, look, we'll see what this team is because last year they had magic. They won 11 games with 4 different quarterbacks, including Flacco, who came off the couch to win them games. If Deshaun Watson's healthy, he's definitely a very talented quarterback, but the question is, will he stay healthy? I don't know. So that's why I have him at 24. They got a good team around him, but I feel like this is almost like, even though he's got that bloated contract, this is like his last go around, really, because otherwise, I'm higher on AOC than you guys are. I have him at 23, not Ocasio-Cortez Okama. I want to put that out there for the political fans of the world. Look, to me, the combination of him and Antonio Pierce still being there kind of works out, and yet he wasn't great, but he wasn't awful. Like, again, 22,000 plus yards passing, 12 touchdowns, I know wins aren't anything, but a 5-5 record. He easily could have been 0-10. He easily could have been, but he had some good plays there. He made some things work. So I think that he's a better quarterback than a bottom quadrant quarterback. And I'm eager to see what he does. Again, can he be replaced by Minshew? Sure, but I also think that Minshew is still a pretty good quarterback compared to the guys that are below Aiden O'Connell. So I'm going to keep that there. 22 for me is Derek Carr. Like Justin said, he was not good last year, and this Saints team deserves a lot better. And again, they were a game off of winning the NFC South because that division was just god awful last year. So, a good quarterback will lead that team to a division win. That's what Tampa had. But Derek Carr had all that run of being a good quarterback and, didn't work out for him. So I think this is it for him. Like this is the last chance to go for him. Minor controversy here. 21 and 20 are the top two rookies that were taken in this draft, but I have Jaden Daniels 20 and Caleb Williams 21. I think there's because again, I'm going off of recent history. I'm not going off my USC bias here. I'm going off of recent history. Last year, even though Caleb Williams played in a horrible USC team and Lincoln Riley's still a bum, we know this for a fact, Jaden Daniels is the most recent Heisman winner and played a much better year, more complete year than Caleb Williams did. So I'm going off of that. What do you bring into this year of NFL play? I think Jaden Daniels has a better acclimation to him that I think he can. And again, it's also a case where he's got Marcus Mariota to lean on, really, if you think about it. He's kind of like got that added little extra veteran leadership. Caleb Williams is basically there by himself. I think their backup is Brett Rippon, if I'm not mistaken. And Bajan's still there. But again, what I like it to this. If you're watching a minor league baseball game and a major league player is rehabbing on the mound pitching, and the catcher for that pitcher is like an 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid in like high A, what is he going out there and saying to Noah Syndergaard or any of these minor league pitchers? Hey, can you mind throwing the ball over the plate, please? That'd be really great. Thanks. What is Tyson Bagent going to say to Caleb Williams that's going to get him pumped up as if he's down in the dumps? So, but I think Jaden Daniels has a little bit more talent and a little more ability. But again, it's going to be a rough year for both of these guys as the quarterbacks, rookies. Rookies always have a little bit of a struggle, unlike a certain rookie that we'll get to a little bit later on in our rankings.
Eat your heart out, Adam Rank.
Exactly. Let me skip 19. There's a reason why I'm going to skip 19. 18 is Baker Mayfield. Yes, great year last year, but is that an aberration? Is that just his one guard? Because if it's a great season, I'm still waiting to see if it's a great career going forward. If he has a great year this year, no doubt in my mind he's a top half quarterback, but I don't see it just yet. Number 17, Geno Smith. Fell off a little bit last year, still has a good pedigree, still a guy who I think can maybe make some plays in Seattle. But again, let's see how he does with a brand new coach. Mike McDonald's a brand new head coach for them. Let's see how he handles that situation there. Guys, I'm not a believer. Number 19 is Tua Tagovailoa. I'm not a believer. Here's the deal. Here's the deal. Football is played from September through January and possibly February if you get to February, right? Well, you cannot be a good quarterback in this league if you are winless in cold weather games. Because when the temperature is under 70 degrees, I read this stat somewhere, Tua has a sub 500 record. But when it's under 40 or further down, he's like 0-10 or something stupid like that. You cannot win games in this league if you do not have the pedigree to play in all weather. It's like tires on a car. If you're not winter tires, don't go on the winter. If you're not a good quarterback in the winter, you cannot lead your team into the playoffs. And I actually went back last year and we were talking about how Miami played so horribly in that game against Kansas City. And Jurg made a really good point. If you want to be a good team, win the conference in the regular season. Have the conference run through Miami this year. But Tua cannot do that. He is not a good quarterback in the winter. And I know what you're thinking. Well, but what didn't he play in college in the winter? Weren't they all in domes or in West Coast games where it was warmer? He's not a good cold weather quarterback. And therefore, for me, you're not a top half quarterback until you can prove otherwise. I'm sorry, but I just don't see it. And also, to be fair, are you good? You cut a lot of weight this year too. Are you good? I just want to make sure you're okay personally. Personally for me. Are you good? Okay, good. So 24 Deshaun Watson, 23 AOC, 22 Derek Carr, 21 Caleb Williams, 20 Jaden Daniels, 19 Tua Tagovailoa, 18 Baker Mayfield, 17 Geno Smith. You knew what was happening last year. Even though he threw 4,600 yards, you got to prove to me you can win in December. Sorry.
Before I go, Justin, he has to give his thoughts here for sure.
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
The dude that led the league in passing last year.
Yes.
The dude that was 5th in passing touchdowns.
What was his last
top 5 in QBR?
What was his last game that you remember him being good in?
Top 5 in completions.
Nope. Sorry. But
what?
Sorry, but again,
you want to take wins to account. That's fine. You're telling me there's 19. What you had 20?
I had 19. Yeah.
You're telling me there's 18 other quarterbacks that you're going to take over Tua right now.
Yeah, I believe so. That's what I did last year, and it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, but last year you also picked what's his name to go to the Chiefs in the draft. What's his name, Jerry?
Tanner McKee.
Tanner McKee, because Patrick Mahomes might fall off after winning 2 Super Bowls in a row.
No, he would retire early, I think was the
idea.
They also didn't have a backup quarterback, but
he led the league in passing last year. Yeah, and listen, you want to sit here and give me the receivers, and you want to sit here and give me the system, and that's fine. You want to tell me he's 12, 11, maybe 10? The names that you haven't picked yet to put over the guy that led the league in passing last year was a top 5 quarterback in passing touchdowns, quarterback rating, completion percentage, and led the league in passing, and won. What'd they win? 11 games last year?
10 or 11.
And how many playoff games did they win?
They played the Super Bowl winners in one of the coldest games in history. It's not like Patrick Mahomes lit them up that day.
But what's the trend, though? The trend is that when you get into
the trend is he loses in cold weather games, so that makes him a bottom half quarterback.
You have
after leading the league in passing.
In this sport, you have to be good all year round in order to be considered one of the top and one of the greatest. He's not winning games in December or January, and he's not even showing up. If he threw 300 yards in that game against Kansas City and they still lost by a field goal, I would give him his flowers. But he had an awful game against the Chiefs. He did.
I'm not defending his playoff loss this year. He was bad in that game. He was. I'll admit it. I think that we're getting carried away from one playoff loss. One playoff loss. And now he is 19th overall after leading the league in passing yards, top 5 in passing touchdowns, top 5 in completion percentage, top 5 in QBR. And you're telling me he's 19th out of 32.
Yes, he is.
Because he lost one playoff game in a record cold game against one of the best defenses in the league.
Here's what I'm saying. There is,
and let's not forget, it's not like they didn't have a major drop touchdown.
Here's what I'm saying, though,
which would have majorly changed his statistics and the game.
To me, there is no quarterback in this league that is more Jekyll and Hyde with the beginning of the season and the end of the season. Yes, Tua has all these great numbers. He puts up all these video game stats, and that's wonderful enough. What does he got to show for it? At the end of the day, what does he have to show for all those great stats and all that great performance in September and October? When he gets to November and December, he's a different quarterback, and it just doesn't work. He's not the same guy. He's not. There is a distinct Jekyll and Hyde disadvantage with having him as your quarterback. And look, here's also what I'll say. Skylar Thompson almost won a playoff game 2 years ago. I'm just saying. And to me, there's a distinct difference in who Tua is at the beginning of the season to the end of the season. And to me, that's a big crime, because you have to be consistently good or mediocre, and you can't have that big of a drop off from 4,600 yards to just barely getting over 100 and 150 with the Tyreek Hill long touchdown run that after the catch. I'm sorry, but that's the way that I view it. And again, prove me wrong. Get the number 1 seed or win a game in December and January that has meaning that you actually play well in, and then we'll talk. I'm not sold on it.
I will say,
are wins a quarterback stat, Rick?
I'm just saying, play well in a game. That your team
wins a quarterback stat. It's that simple. Either they are or they aren't.
They can be. You do lead game-winning drives in the fourth quarter, so yeah, I think they can be.
It's a complete football team. You can't sit here and tell me that the rest of the Dolphins were blowing the doors off the Chiefs, and they lost in the third coldest game in the history of the NFL in an outdoor game against, again, one of the best defenses in the NFL, and it's Tua's fault. Even though he was excellent the entire year. And because of that, he's a bottom 15 quarterback.
If we're saying this is a quarterback-driven league, then the overall body of work tells me that this is a guy who plays differently every 2 months. And I'm not sold on that inconsistency at that spot. When you're supposed to be a good team that has a lot more talent in other positions, I agree. Miami's a very talented team. But if we're talking about a quarterback-driven football league, and you have this guy who cannot seem to play up to even his brother's standards in December or January, to me that's a grave foul. It's a grave foul. I'm sorry, it just is.
I disagree, but anyways, let's move on, Jerg.
Yeah, I guess we'll get to it whenever I give my Tua ranking, which we'll see which quadrant that's in. It's not going to be in the third quadrant. Calm down. All right,
makes sense.
Let's keep it going. So 24, if I have Jayden Daniels. I believe he has the second highest upside of the rookie QBs drafted in this class. I think with the presence of Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Austin Eckler, Brian Robinson, if they get a modicum of league average offensive line play, like we said in the worst to first potential ratings, Rick, the Commanders will have the ability to play upset later in the year because they face both Philly and Dallas late in the season. And I think there's a chance that they could cost one of those two teams the division, potentially, with how shocking they might be. And I think that's going to be because of Jayden Daniels, and we might see a couple instances here. There will be the rookie growing pains, of course, at the end of the day.
I was going to say they also cost Justin the Pick Challenge Championship for the second year in a row. But,
that's rough. That's
rough. Shake it off, buddy. Shake it off.
Rough. But I think there's a lot of talent there. I really do like Jayden Daniels. I was very tempted to honestly rank him above the next two quarterbacks here on this list as well, because the youth, the talent, it's there. But I can't, as of now, put the rookie above these next two guys yet, but it was close. 23, Derek Carr. When you're throwing it in the dirt and yelling at your wide receivers for not catching the ball, did you suffer concussions in Oakland/Vegas that we're unaware of? What are you doing? God bless Spencer Rattler's soul that's going to have to be the guy he has to learn under in New Orleans. Poor Spencer Rattler. If only he had gone somewhere else that have veterans that, care more about their young guys, like Tennessee. Or that. But no, I'm just Derek Carr. I sniffed it out early last offseason when it happened. I wasn't a fan of Derek Carr towards the end of his time with the Raiders, and I knew last year from day one that it was not going to go that great in New Orleans. And lo and behold, what happened? They need to figure something out. They shed some contracts last year. They tried to go veteran heavy last year. It didn't necessarily work out for them. There's no more Michael Thomas there. There's no more Jarvis Landry there. It's going to be extremely young. Maybe young wide receivers is just a better way to go for Derek Carr. I don't know. It's kind of telling that some of his best passing success didn't come with Devontae Adams, but a young Hunter Renfrow and guys like that. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But Derek Carr, not high on him. Russ Wilson, 22nd. So I think the highest of the three of us, which is odd considering my history on the show of critiquing him. Look,
Justin, I want to hear controversy about this take instead, because Russell Wilson being this high is a problem for me.
What number is it?
22.
Makes sense.
Last chance saloon. Last chance saloon here for Russell Wilson. Like Justin said, there's going to be some differences now than when he was in Denver. He's not going to get a corner office with, instant service margaritas or whatever he had when he was in Denver. He's actually going to have to be like his teammates, have an actual locker in the locker room and talk to them and relate to them. I want to see how that science experiment goes. But no, Russell Wilson might still have something left in the tank. Kind of like with the guy who I'm going to say next on this list, his last great year was probably 2020, maybe parts of 2021, before he ultimately fell off the last 2 years. This is your last chance, not even just for your actual playing career, your image. If you can't make it work in Pittsburgh with all those blue-collar guys, with the most blue-collar coach of all time in Mike Tomlin, that's a guy who's all about not blinking, and the process is the process and the Steelers' way. If it doesn't work out and it ends poorly, whatever the definition of ending poorly will be in your opinion, whether it's he makes it actually to the end of the season, but they miss out the playoffs horribly, if it's he gets benched midway through the year because he starts playing poorly, whatever your definition of it ending badly for Russell Wilson will be this season, if it goes poorly here, I don't see how a team takes a shot at him after this. This is a savior perception season for him. This is a savior career and savior perception season for Russell Wilson. 21, I have Deshaun Watson. Look, he is the most talented QB I've listed so far. I don't think that can be denied, but we haven't seen that talent in a very long time. So it is going to be up to him to put it all back together. You know, the last time he played a full proper football season was the pandemic year. He had 38 touchdowns, I think, and 7 interceptions. That is all world. If we could take 2020 Deshaun Watson exactly and put him on this team, the Browns would be challenging for the top seed in the AFC, and he'd be challenging for top 5 in our quarterback rankings. But it's not 2020 anymore, which is both a good and a bad thing in certain circumstances for people. You know, the talent's still there, but he definitely needs to do something with this Browns team, because this Browns team, there's another team in Ohio that's going to be challenging for a wild card spot this year in that division. So you gotta remember that. 20, Geno Smith. Justin's right. He is no longer under consideration for the Ring of Honor because he is definitively going to be locked in to a Ring of Honor spot once his illustrious time in Seattle ultimately comes to an end. By the way, he's 33, going on 34, age-wise. Look, I think it's safe to say, and I think I always had this perspective, that Geno Smith is not a guy who's necessarily going to carry you for a season. He might have a game or two where he'll pull it off, but it's the team around him that needs to perform, simply put. There's only so much he could do, and I think, as you guys said, this might be the last year that he gets a chance to have the proper full run of scope in the season, because I could see 2025 being the year where if he's not getting it done, he probably does get benched. And it would be a tragic way for his Ring of Honor career to end, but you know, not every story is a fairy tale ending, as we know. 19, Caleb Williams. Kid's talented, man. The weapons are there. I don't know if the head coach isn't necessarily there, but I think Caleb Williams has the upside. He has the potential. If he gets that Bears team, that garbage Bears team, that's what they've been the last couple of years. If he brings that team to like 8 wins, I'd put him like a top 6 MVP voter, honestly, because you bring the Chicago Bears to 8 wins in a season, you might as well be the second coming in that city. So a lot of expectations there for Caleb Williams, the Chicago Bears. But I think the talent's there. There's some skill position, like you guys have already noted, with Moore, with Keenan Allen, with Roma Dunze. Plentiful options to throw to. Just got to figure it out. And if that defense, if they could take the momentum they had in the second half of last season and carry it over, team to watch, Chicago easily. 18th, Matthew Stafford. You guys have said it all. This could be a year where he keeps showing in this league that he's good, or this could be the final season of his career if he gets hurt. Who knows? Like, it's one or the other. I think right now the Rams are in a place where they really do need him to keep on going, and I think he will much oblige to that, and he'll still put up some good numbers. Cooper and Puka are there. Unless it is injury, I don't necessarily see right away what happens that would make him fall off so badly. Maybe if the offensive line were to regress again, because that's what happened in 2022 that made him look as bad as he did. Other than that, there's that. And then 17th, I think definitively the lowest out of the three of us, because I don't think either of you two have ranked him so far. Kyler Murray. Look, I am a Kyler Murray guy. I have defended him on this show before. I think last year, real quick, because I actually have it, I had him at 16th last year. So he's right there, basically. 16th last year, 17th this year for me. Look, I just need to see it return back for a full season from that torn ACL. You got Maserati Marv there as your new number one option. The perceived curse of Cliff Kingsbury is gone for Kyler. That's the thing now. You know, it was coming out that the Cardinals under Cliff Kingsbury, what Kyler had to do a lot of the time was they would run the set plays for a lot of the first quarter and first half, and then they would do more freestyle. And it was beginning to show that second half Cardinals offense was a lot better than the first half Cardinals offense. A full year under, is that really an offensive mind? But Jonathan Gannon's coaching staff, this is a big year to me for us to be like, was he the problem? Because Kingsbury was a problem there, but how much of it was him and how much of it is Kyler is good. Maybe every once in a while plays great, but he's not consistently great. I need to see Kyler play consistently great. And he also has to get a little bit of a monkey off his back in terms of not performing in the second half. Because while Cliff Kingsbury has a perception of that very much so earned, Kyler, he has to play a small part of that, especially the season a couple years back. Was it 2021 where they would start out the season undefeated? They were like 11-1 in the first, or 10-1 in the first 11 games, and then they completely fell off a cliff at the end, made the wild card, and just got smacked in that wild card game. He played a role.
Right.
Yes.
Fell off a cliff.
Yeah. Yes. So ultimately, this is a big. this isn't like what I've said for some of the other guys where if he doesn't perform this year, his career is going to be like Kyler Murray has shown enough to where I think he'll get multiple jobs in his career in terms of being a starter again. But in terms of being the perception of franchise caliber, this might be the last year where he could be franchise caliber and then descending from there. So my 24 through 17, Jaden Daniels at 24th, Derek Carr at 23rd, Russ Wilson at 22nd, Deshaun Watson at 21st, Geno Smith at 20th, Caleb Williams at 19th, which I think is just barely the highest that the three of us have him ranked. I think we all have him very close there in that 19 to 21 range. Matt Stafford at 18th and Kyler Murray at 17th.
In the immortal words of Jonathan Gannon, who took the bus here? Who drove?
Yeah. Kyler probably Ubered it after a night-long Call of Duty.
More than likely, he would do that here. All right, so now we're into the top half of our rankings. It's already been a little testy, a little controversial so far, and I'm sure it'll get even more testy and controversial at some point. But let's have some levity here. Justin, why don't you go 16 to 10? Let's go right to the top 10.
All right. Yes. Including 10?
Including 10.
All right. So at 16, I have Brock Purdy. I like Brock Purdy a lot, but I think he's very dependent on his weapons and the system around him. I think that's not really surprising to anyone. He is a Super Bowl caliber quarterback in my mind, but he's not the guy that's going to win you the whole thing. You need the team around him, and I mean, as with most team sports are, but can he be higher on this list? Sure. And this is the range right now where I actually really started to struggle with guys. But at 15, I had really debated whether or not he could be 16 or 15 with Brock Purdy, but I took the athletic ability. I put Kyler at 15. I think just the running ability, the ability to go out and grab a first down with guys in your face and coming at you. I guess it remains to be seen if he can still do that really consistently after the surgery, but after the ACL injury. But I have Kyler Murray at 15. At 14, I start to get a little spicy, and I put Jalen Hurts. I think he took a major step back last year. Good player. I do think that he has what it takes to keep his team in winning contention, but I kind of believe more in the team than I do in the quarterback and the quarterback play of Jalen Hurts. We'll see if he can, really get back to where he was the year before, see if he can really play at that elite level. But obviously he is not consistent with it because he did not play like that for the majority of the season last year. He was okay at best. They started off strong. Their running game was excellent, but they had arguably the best defensive line, a great defense overall, and top receivers in running game. So, and obviously a great offensive line. When the offensive line started to get a little banged up, you really saw a difference in Jalen Hurts. So that's where I have him. At 13, I got Jordan Love. Jordan Love played better than most people expected him to play last year. And if you remember the beginning of the year last year, I said all he has to do is be an average quarterback for that team to be dangerous because they have a great defense and a great running game. And even with Aaron Jones being banged up most of the year, they kept that team going. I do expect Jordan Love to take a step forward this year. He really got his legs under him last year. He had inconsistent weapons last year. I expect them to be a lot better. They signed what's his name from the Raiders, who I think is going to be an excellent weapon there, the running back.
Josh Jacobs.
Yeah. Don't know why I couldn't remember his name. I love the weapons they have there in wide receivers, young wide receivers in Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson. I do think they can make some noise in not a wide open NFC North, but I think that those wildcard spots are up for grabs, and I would not want to play the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs. At number 12, I got Aaron Rodgers. I don't know what a 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers after Achilles surgery is going to be. Experimental Achilles surgery. Let's throw that out there. This is a new thing. We don't know the long-term results of a surgery like this. We don't know if he could take a hit. He was coming off a pretty banged up season the year before and then only played 4 plays last year. If we can get any semblance of Aaron Rodgers, the Jets will be in good shape. But I think that is a major question mark. At number 11, we got another Achilles surgery coming out here. I have Kirk Cousins. And the only reason I put him above Aaron Rodgers is because I think we saw a little bit of consistency prior to that. And I think he's a little bit younger and has a better chance to bounce back a little bit better. That's really it. In my mind, they're in the same boat. They have the same kind of system and weapons, and we could see them play really good, or we could see them aging out of their position. And at number 10, coming off a rough year, still played pretty well in my mind, and was, not lighting it up statistically, but still top 10 in passing. Trevor Lawrence. I expect him to be better this year. I do. He was banged up. He probably shouldn't have played in some of those games last year. Toughed it out. I like Trevor. I think that he's still a top 10 quarterback in my mind.
Yeah. Okay. I have very little issues with that 16 to 10. And there are names that I think we're going to have some similar vibes on for all that. What was for the people? 16 to 10, Justin.
Brock Purdy at 16. At 15, Kyler Murray. 14, Jalen Hurts. 13, Jordan Love. 12, Aaron Rodgers. 11, Kirk Cousins. And 10, Trevor Lawrence.
Very nice. Yeah, I'll run through mine kind of quickly because there's similar names on here for me, and the reasons are kind of the similar. I actually have Kyler at number 16 for me this year. I think he's got a wealth of talent at his disposal, but let's see a full year of it. And again, the thing with Arizona is that this is a very tough division to play in with San Francisco, with Seattle, with the Rams. So, he's got his work cut out for him there in this division there. 15 for me, Kirk Cousins. The specter of Michael Penix is looming, but this division is still wide open for the Falcons. I mean, I know, they made a very weird choice in their draft, but again, if Baker falls off, do you really believe that Derek Carr is going to lead the Saints to the division title, or Bryce Young will figure it out in year 2? I think Cousins has the best chance of capitalizing if the Bucs falter. So I think I have him there. He's a solid quarterback with a lot of good weapons around him, and he can make some good throws. And I think him playing in Atlanta will probably be better for him. Similar to Justin, 14 is Jalen Hurts. Look, good player, solid enough quarterback, but this Eagles team just fell off so fast at the end of last year. And Justin's right. They lost a lot of that talent on the offensive line and their weapons, and Jalen Hurts just could not capitalize. The fact that you have an all-world tight end like Dallas Goedert, who went missing in the last 5 weeks of the regular season, speaks volumes to me about Jalen Hurts not being able to do anything properly. And Nick Sirianni's a clown. Anywho's, number 13 for me, little lower than Justin had him, but similar reasons. Trevor Lawrence, I think, a little lower on the list. But again, didn't have the greatest of years last year. Didn't take that step forward like we thought he was going to. So now there's a little more pressure built onto him. So I think that this is kind of a bounce back year if he can. But this division is tough. It is, because Houston's right there. They're a really good team. Indy, if Richardson's right, and well, there's the Titans. They'll be third. Anywho's, number 12 on my list is Matt Stafford. Talented quarterback. Is this the last go around for him? Injury wise. But even if it is, I still have him as a top 12 guy. I think he can make all the right throws and all the right decisions that you need. And so I have him at number 12. I think that he's solid enough. Number 11, I flipped my 10 and 11 initially. Number 11 is Brock Purdy for the same reasons that Justin has. Like, he's a good quarterback, but when you think of the 49ers, you do not think of Brock Purdy. Like, he's kind of an afterthought to this team because of how good the defense is and their weaponry. He's kind of like just there. You could put a cardboard cutout of Steve Young and maybe have the same success right now, because Brock Purdy is a good quarterback, but he's not the all-world guy. And then my number 10, and I think this being a number 10 is going to be a bit of a surprise. Probably Justin might have another problem with this one again, but, par for the course. Dak Prescott, number 10. Look, we're waiting. We have been waiting, and we're still waiting for something good to happen here with this Dallas team. Again, look at the memes, right? The Stars were in the conference finals this year. The Mavericks are in the NBA finals. The Rangers are the defending World Series champions, although I'll talk about them a little bit later for a very bad reason in our rant podium. It has been over 10,000 days since the Cowboys made a conference final. And last year was their best chance in recent memory to break that curse. CeeDee Lamb had a great season. Dak had a good regular season, but when push came to shove, he couldn't deliver in the big moments. They were gashed and they were silenced by Green Bay, and Dak was nowhere to be found. When your top receiver's mother goes on social media and says that Dak Prescott is not going to lead this team to a Super Bowl and he's only in it for the money, certain things that are sound hollow start to ring true. And I think that Dak, it's top 10, it's fringe top 10, and this is make or break for Dak this year. Because look, he could still have the job next year if they don't win a lot of games and go to the NFC title game, but there's expectations in Dallas for better. And right now, I'm thinking to myself, if I'm Jerry Jones, how's that Quinn Ewers kid doing over there? Or maybe I can get Shador because then I can get Dion to come coach the Cowboys instead. Maybe if he wants to come over here and do that instead. He's thinking about the future. He's not thinking about the now with Dak Prescott, which is why you saw the future with the free agency. They did not do a damn thing in free agency this year. So Dak's kind of, I don't want to call him a lame duck candidate, but he's about as lame a duck as you can find right now in Dallas. So Kyler 16, Cousins 15, Jalen 14, Lawrence 13, Stafford 12, Purdy 11, and Prescott 10.
I'm trying to think who's in your top 10 that I'm going to be upset about. I can't think of it.
Well,
Derek, it's up to you, bro.
We'll get to it when it's time. All right. 16, I got Baker Mayfield. You guys said the reasons before. Look, Baker, it was a career year for him last year. Renaissance, resurgence, any word you could say. Revival. Look, 3 R words right there. He saved his career. And like you guys said, they re-signed him. The expectation, just be close to what you were last year, and they'll have a chance again to win that division. What goes from there, we'll see. So he's 16 for me. 15, Kirk Cousins. Just because like he is coming off a really tough injury, an Achilles injury for him is just brutal. And he's going into a team. It's a new offense that he has to contend with, a new head coach, new personalities, new wide receivers he needs to gel with. I think there might be some growing pains there, despite the fact he is a veteran. I think there could be some timing issues at the start. Nowhere near Derek Carr level. Trust me on that. But it will be a bit tough for Atlanta, I think, at the beginning. Like, they'll still have good performances, but there will be a play or two, I think, early where it's like, ooh, if there was more time between them. You know, like they'll make mistakes in week 4 and 5 that they're not going to make in weeks 12 and 13, right? I think that's what it'll be. And at the end of the day, Kirk Cousins, again, I always waffle back and forth with him like a tennis ball. I think he's a fine quarterback. Maybe he's a little bit better than what I give him credit for. I think 15 is a fine enough range. I think it's the lowest you could properly rank him. I think he deserves to be considered a top half quarterback, but how far does he ascend in that top half? That's where I think the question's like, which I believe if I look at last year, I had him. Where'd I have him?
Where'd he go?
So, no, I legitimately cannot find him on this list right now. So we'll circle back on that. But Kirk Cousins, 15 for me. 14, Jordan Love. Like Justin said, the expectations were low last year, very low, and he way exceeded them. He gets exceed expectations on his Hogwarts report card. Now can he get an O for outstanding with a follow-up year? Look, he just, like, all it is now is, was it a one-year thing or is it more? That's all it is with Jordan Love now. And I think it's more than fair to say that, right? Because for all the good that there was, now there's way more tape out on him. Will teams be able to figure out the tells of that Green Bay Packers offense? Will they be able to figure out his tells? Can they force him to make a couple more mistakes potentially? He played very mistake-free football last year. And it's going to be a significant thing to see and how good the Packers are. Is he really that guy that he's just not going to throw a ton of interceptions? Or was it just last year they had a little bit of luck on some of that? You know, I think it's fair to say. But 14, I think, really good. 13, Tua. Look, I'm not holding just one game against him like some people are. But I think it is fair to say that post-Thanksgiving, there are some questions about the level of play he brings. I think of the Commanders game last season where he just did not play at the level he was earlier. I think of the Cowboys game where, yes, they won that game, but it wasn't necessarily because Tua dominated, right? He didn't take over that game. He got them in position for the field goal. I'll give him credit there. But there were plays made there where they could have maybe won that game by a bit more. the Titans game, no excuse that they couldn't keep scoring in that game, that they couldn't give their defense even more of a cushion. Just not an excuse. And at the end of the day, man, the division was there for them. I'm not even looking at the playoffs. The division was still there for them in the final game of the regular season, and he didn't play to a high level. I know you could say, like, oh, Josh Allen didn't play at that high level at the other end. You're 100% right. And if we had seen early season Tua in the finale, they wouldn't have gone to Kansas City. So I think there is some merit to, you are one guy the first 2.5 months of the season, but that last month and a half, you're just not playing at the same level you are. And I'm not going to gatekeep him out of the top half, but I don't know. I can't put you as a top 10 quarterback if you can't show up the last 5-6 weeks of the season consistently. And look, this is a year where he could turn that around definitively, right? Like, that division, I think, is wide open. I don't think the Bills are the overwhelming favorite that they've been the last couple of years. There's a real chance for Miami, and there's a real chance for Tua. Aaron Rodgers at 12, just 12 is just working out here, huh? Look, it's tough to grade because he missed the entirety of last season. And, you know, he's done his rehab. You know, he's got the dolphin sonar waves on his leg. He probably took whatever other medicinal herbs since then. He probably went to the mountains at some point in the offseason to live up with Buddhist monks for like a week. If Aaron Rodgers is healthy and he plays well again, he's going to be higher on this list. We haven't seen it for 2 years, though. I think that's fair to say. Simple as that. 11, Trevor Lawrence. I had him top 10 last year. He just slips out of it this year. Like you guys said, I think part of it last year, it was a little bit on him, but I think more of it has to do with the inconsistencies around him. And Doug Peterson, not a great second year for him compared to year one. So you gotta show up more there, Doug. You got to. But T-Law, I think the talent is there, the ability is there. I think he will bounce back. But I think the guys I have ranked above him did a bit more last season to get on this list. And number 10, the gatekeeper for me, Jalen Hurts. Higher than you two. I don't think because of how we ranked him going into 2023, I don't know if he really fell off that much where he couldn't still be considered top 10. But there's questions. There are a lot of games last year where the passing was just not at the same level it was before. When it wasn't the tush push, the runs were hit or miss. It's on you. Straight up. It's on you, Jalen. And I made the joke last year. Well, not last year, earlier this year in the postseason. Like, look, in terms of future politician, I would pick Jalen Hurts to be a politician above anyone. Just because, like, his confidence when he goes up to a microphone, he speaks so smoothly. He speaks so calmly. The dude has a career in politics if he wants it. My fellow Americans, I could see Jalen Hurts. He basically starts every speech with that. But I think we need to see a little bit more of a different side of him this year. I think we need to see the passion in him explode for Philly this year. You know, show that Philly grit, the toughness of Jalen Hurts. We need to see the attitude of the kid that bet on himself to leave Alabama, to go to Oklahoma, to then be able to be a second-round pick, and then is now the starter. I think we may have missed a little bit of that last year. I don't know if he was a full-on dog last year. You need to see him put on that performance again and give us that mindset. I think if he enters this season and performs at that level, I think he'll be back higher up next season. So, 16, Baker for me. 15, Kirk Cousins. 14, Jordan Love. 13, Tua. 12, Aaron Rodgers. 11, Trevor Lawrence. And number 10, the gatekeeper of the upper echelons, Jalen Hurts.
By process of elimination, I just did a quick run-through of my rankings and the names that I heard and didn't hear. I think we have 7 guys in the top 9 that are all similar. It's just going to be a question of where they're ranked. Because I know there are 7 names that I have not heard. Well, I haven't. The other 2 names that are in my top 9, I've already heard you say. And so I know that I'm a little higher than the rest of y'all. How do you want to do this? Do you want to go through just quickly 9 through? Or do you want to do... It's up to y'all. Let's all right. So let's go. Number 9.
9 through.
Yeah, number 9. Justin, who's your number 9?
Number 9, I got Josh Allen. I think that Josh Allen has all the tools to be top 3 quarterback, but without the game plan being ideal for him, and now with some new receivers, the turnovers are an issue. I don't know he's that guy right now. Again, it might be different this year. It might have been different last year, but as of right now, he's not the reason that they're a great team. And he's the reason that they're still alive and relevant, but there's something missing there. So I got Josh Allen at 9.
All right. I know Jerk just left. Why don't you go through who's Jerk's back. Okay.
I'm back.
My number 9, Jordan Love. Maybe recency bias, but I think he's turned the right corner. And I think that without the weapons that he had, they can still be pretty good. So I have Jordan Love as my number 9. Jerk, your number 9.
My number 9 is big clock Brock Purdy.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's like he had his moments. Of course, you think of the skill position weapons there. I think 9 is a fair spot for him. I do. So number 9, big clock Brock.
Justin, your number 8.
My number 8 is Rick's favorite disappointment in Tua Tagovailoa. I think that he has the tools to be great. He has missed some major win now games, especially coming down the stretch when it's cold. But yeah, it's been not what we want out of a guy who's leading the league in passing.
I think he has the biggest spread. 8 for you, 13 for Jurg, and 19 for yours truly.
As of right now.
My number 8, kind of like Jurg's number 12. My number 8's Aaron Rodgers, because it fits the narrative of him wearing number 8 in New York. Until otherwise spoken about, I think that Aaron Rodgers is even though he only played 4 plays, is the greatest potential quarterback the Jets could have, past Joe Namath to go to a Super Bowl. I still think that he can do that. And, again, let's hope that he's healthy this year, but he's still got a good amount of weapons that are there, and he can be solid. So I have him there at number 8 for me. Jared, you're number 8.
Jared Goff is my number 8. At this point, to me, the top 8 to 10 you start to really look into talent. You can't just go off of stats anymore. And Jared Goff, he's put up together some really great stat seasons in the last couple of years. I give him all the respect in the world. Has been the guy there for Detroit. But the 7 guys I have above him, I think in certain instances and certain attributes, they have just a little bit more than him. But he's still very good. Jared Goff, top 8 quarterback. Who would have thought that?
Hey, I've been hitting on that for a long time now. Thank you.
We'll see, but I got Jared Goff at number 8.
All right. Justin, number 7 for you.
CJ Stroud.
Ooh. Okay.
I love CJ Stroud. I think he's going to have more weapons this year. He took a little bit of time early in the season to really come on, but they were good last year. They were a good team, and he was the reason they were winning games. I love Stephon Diggs there. They pumped up that running game by bringing in Joe Mixon. They worked on the offensive line, which was already pretty decent to begin with. Tank Dell will be back. This is a good team, and he's going to have a very good season in the NFL this year.
Like that. My number 7, only because we didn't get a full season out of him, and I think that I'm going to set the bar a little lower for him, but I think that he can still be a good enough player, is Joe Burrow. Can be a top 5 talent, no question about it. But let's see if the Bengals can still keep all their weapons, and let's see what that does, and let's see how he heals up from the injury that he had. I'm going to set the bar a little lower for him. I think he's still a very talented quarterback, but I think there's a lot of extemporaneous factors for me that kind of keep him outside of that top 5 for now.
There's 6 quarterbacks you'd rather have than Joe Burrow?
For now. I'm saying for right now because I don't know about the contract drama with Higgins and with Jamar Chase. I don't know if he's going to heal fully. I don't know if we're going to go back to him being sacked 95 times this season like he wasn't going to the Super Bowl.
Okay, but 2 of those aspects are more.
Sure, we will. Even with all of that, you're telling me the 6 quarterbacks you'd rather have over Joe Burrow?
7 and 6 were a toss-up for me, so I'm going 7 as Burrow right now. But
5 quarterbacks you'd rather have over Joe Burrow?
Yeah, 7 and 6 for me are kind of a little. Those were some recency bias too, so I'm going in that way. Jerry, number 7.
Dak Prescott. You guys have already said it. He's talented. There are weapons there, but it's looking tough for him. Is Jerry Jones about to drop Dak Prescott for 1 year of Cooper Rush and then getting Arch Manning? Can you imagine a Manning playing in a Cowboys uniform?
Ooh. I can.
Nightmares for a lot of people. So give me Dak at number 7.
All right, Justin, number 6.
Number 6, I got Jared Goff, guys. I think he's coming off a major year. He's not a top 5 quarterback for me because I don't think that he is that level. If you understand what I'm trying to say, it's just there's an intangible that you have as a top 5 quarterback, and to me, as great as Jared Goff has been, he's never been that level of quarterback, but he is the best that you can get outside of that. He has been excellent for them. He's proven why he was the number 1 overall pick. He's proven why he's been to a Super Bowl already and why Detroit was happy to trade for him. This was a good move for both teams. And if he wins the Super Bowl with Detroit, that's the most even trade I think we've ever seen.
In all of sports history.
The most successful and most even trade.
Agreed. As I said, 6 and 7 for me I had a toss between the two. 6 is Josh Allen for me. I could kind of do Joe Burrow over Josh Allen if I wanted to, but there's certain reasons that I think Josh Allen's a little bit higher than that. But I just, I know, Justin, you had Josh Allen at number 9, and I agree with you. There's a lot more negative in his play now that he's not a top 5 quarterback for me. But I still think that there's an intangible to him that is a little bit more, I guess, complete in a way that I'm looking at the way that he can play all different ways. So I have him at number 6 for me. But again, him and Burrow to me are relatively interchangeable for my rankings.
I think that's interesting because I think that we're seeing something very rare here, Jerk, and that is someone outside of Buffalo that would actually take Josh Allen over Joe Burrow.
Right.
That is a rarity in football talk.
Yeah. I got to say, I think both of them should be at least 1 or 2 higher for you there, Rick.
Okay.
Number 6 for me, Justin Herbert. It was a bit of a step back last year. I think this is going to be a big year to see what kind of mentality Justin Herbert has with this new head coach, this new scheme, and just not the same offensive weapons that he's had the last couple of seasons. I still believe in him, unlike some people who think he's just a social media or stat padding quarterback. But he is just outside the top 5 for me.
Okay, reasonable. Then now we're in the top 5, and this is going to be more interesting. Justin, number 5 for you.
Number 5, I have Justin Herbert. I think that with all of the injuries and issues they had last year, he's still a top 5 quarterback. Statistically, he can get out there. He can give you all the things you want. I do think he has the tools to win you games, but I think with the coaching and the way the defense played last year, it's just not an opportunity you got to see last year. And that's why a lot of people are very down on him. It's going to be very interesting to see what he is in this new system with Harbaugh there. I know they're reworking the offensive line. That running game is not going to be great, I think, early on. But it's going to be interesting to see what they can do and how they move forward with this. Because, I mean, he's the guy, obviously. He's a top 5 quarterback. He has what you're looking for in a young player. We need to see some success late in the season, though. That's where his career has really been offset. Because if he wins 1, maybe 2 playoff games in his career, we're talking about him at a different language.
Yeah. So. I'm in the same boat. Justin Herbert for me is number 5. I got to see it. This team has to be the team that hits all our expectations like they haven't been. Because they haven't been. But Herbert's the guy. He's a great quarterback. Let's see how he is in Harbaugh's system. But number 5 for me. Jerk?
CJ Stroud. He has the it factor. He has the clutch gene. He can be ruthless. The Tampa game was his coming out party last year, and he's been on fire ever since. The kid has everything you want your franchise quarterback to be. Last year was just year 1 of what could be a special set of seasons that CJ Stroud could put up for us. So I got him at number 5.
So I think our 1 and 2 are pretty much the same, but our 3 and our 4 are definitely going to be a little different in some capacities.
I think you're assuming some stuff about the 1 and 2 right there.
I don't think that our 1 and 2s are going to be the same.
Just the number 4.
At number 4, I have everyone's favorite Cowboy, Dakota Prescott. Listen, Dak, we expected him to take a step back last year with no Amari Cooper. We didn't really expect a ton because the run game was supposed to be a little bit worse with Tony Pollard, and it was a lot worse than they thought it was. And look, he still came out. He won his division. He was top 3 in passing. He led the league in passing touchdowns with 36. He had less than 10 interceptions. He had an excellent year. And we can sit here and talk about how they blew up. Let's face it, he had 1 interception. He had 2 interceptions in the first quarter. One of them, they were already down 14-0. It's not like that defense did them any favors. And that was the issue with the defense all year. It was big play or big play, if you understand what I mean. It was going one way or it was going the other. They did not do him any favors there. He struggled early, sure. That Packers defense is excellent. But Dak Prescott is the reason that they did anything last year. Anything at all.
That's true.
He was a fantastic player for them. I expect him to be a fantastic player for him this year. He's a top 5 quarterback in my mind. Let's see if he can win him a playoff game, but I don't necessarily think he is the problem there. He's not the answer, apparently, but he's certainly not the problem in my mind.
Okay. Number 4 for me is the highest NFC quarterback in my rankings. I know we have different rankings, but mine. I'm a big believer in him. You guys know that I'm a big believer in him. I will continue to die on this hill. Jared Goff. He's high for me, but this year he showed, I think, the prowess to be a top-tier quarterback, and he's, I believe, top 10 for all of us. I have him in the top 5, but I think he's found it. He's got it, and this Lions team can run with him. And I think that he's a solid enough top 5 option and the best quarterback in the NFC. Because again, while Brock Purdy got the Niners were in the Super Bowl, was Brock Purdy really the guy that got them there? No, I don't think so. So I have Goff over him at number 4. Jerk?
I just realized my top 6 guys are all AFC guys. Just go quarterback conference. Josh Allen at number 4. I still think there's something there for all the mistakes and issues that he had at the start of last season, and I very much criticized him. He did start to bounce back late in the year. He started to play better. This is, again, it feels like a lot of these guys, like this is a make it or break of the year. This is a year where it's like, okay, Josh Allen, are you really going to be Buffalo's Super Bowl hope for the future? Or are you just really, really good, but you can't get over the hump? That's what it is for me. But I still think like he's supremely talented. Like it's not having him top 5 is kind of for me. I don't know, boys.
But Justin, to your point, somebody else here would pick him in the top 5. Neither of us did, but
it's fair. And look, I do think he's, like I said, he's got top 5 potential, but he hasn't shown it. And would you be surprised if he took a major step back this year? I certainly wouldn't.
We've reached the podium. Justin, give us your 3, 2, 1.
In third, reigning MVP Lamar Jackson. I really love Lamar as a playmaker. He's an excellent quarterback in this league, but he's not better at quarterback than the next 2 guys. That's just really what it is. I mean, it's interesting to see now that he had a little bit of receiver help, what he could do passing wise. He was an excellent player last year. He led his team to being, the best team in the conference, but I'm not taking him over 2 and 1, and I'm going 2 and 1 now.
Go ahead.
Yep.
I have Joe Burrow at 2 and Patrick Mahomes at 1. Listen, Joe Burrow is still the best traditional quarterback that we have seen in a long time. He's Dan Marino, but hopefully maybe he wins a Super Bowl, I guess, in my mind. And I mean, until someone unseats Patrick Mahomes, I'm taking Patrick Mahomes 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah. I have this guy very high up, recency bias, but I believe for the same reason that Jurg said, CJ Stroud is number 3 for me. It was one of the best rookie seasons I've ever seen. And, the only thing you want from him is not to have a sophomore slump. But I don't think he will because that team just got better.
Yeah.
With Stephon Diggs there, Tank Dell will probably fully be healthy. Nico Collins is still around. The Texans are real, man. They are a real solid team, and I think that Stroud is the right quarterback in that spot. And he could be the next electric guy that we'll be talking about for years to come. I know we're in this quarterback era, but CJ Stroud's making the case for continuing that with all of them. Number 2 is Lamar Jackson. Yep, reigning MVP. He actually had help this year. I think he was better than advertised. But there's still questions. There's still those things that are keeping him out of the number 1 spot. And again, as Justin said, until proven otherwise and until you unseat the king, Patrick Mahomes is still the number 1 quarterback. I know he had a rough season last year. It wasn't pretty. They were losing games they shouldn't have lost. They were the 3 seed, which they had to go on the road for the first time. Actually, they went on the road twice. He still won them.
Yeah. He
still won those games. And you can say, well, it wasn't because of Mahomes. Well, no, it was Mahomes was being his guy. So, yeah, there's questions. And it was also because of Taylor. But Mahomes is number 1 for me. Joe, you're 3, 2, 1.
Yep, same podium as Justin. Number 3, Lamar Jackson. I know he won last year's MVP, and it was good to see him have some weapons. But there's just some things that he is a step or 2 behind the top 2 guys. Joe Burrow. Shout out to my guy Chris. He said it himself that his comparison for Mahomes and Burrow was that Mahomes right now is Brady in terms of the success of the championships. Burrow is as cerebral of a quarterback as we've seen since Peyton Manning. He's the most cerebral quarterback. He is arguably, because I know Mahomes is right up there with him, Mahomes and Burrow are the two most cerebral QBs we've seen since Peyton Manning. And Joe Burrow can pick a defense apart.
I thought you were going to go with the Burrows Roethlisberger connotation. I was like, whoa.
No, never. I'm not. Look, I've done a lot of different things on this podcast. I ain't complimenting Ben Roethlisberger, to say the very least.
I put 2 at 19th.
So
I did my part.
So Joe is going to be my number 2 easily. Then, you come at the king, you best not miss. People missed last year. They missed the year before. Are they going to miss again? It's Patrick Mahomes is number 1. And it's just, it feels so weird to say it's not even close because to me, whoever we have as our top 3, 4, 5 around him is pretty good. But that just goes to show Mahomes is just that dude. And he will continue to be that dude for a long time.
Yeah, it's another tier when it comes to Mahomes, honestly. So that's our quarterback rankings. I'll echo the words of some YouTube channels. Do you disagree? I mean, you probably do with mine. Let's be honest here.
Let us know in the comments.
Let us know in the comments below. But before we do that, we're going to wrap things up here with, as always, the Rant Podium. And Justin will be listening in on the phone as he has been whisked away to his next adventure. But
our first call in on the show, Justin.
I think he'll enjoy this one. I have a top 4 actually because there's something that I've been holding on to for a while that now is just the time to bring it in. But my honorable mention for this one is Drew Holiday. No one needs to know about where you put your Zins and why that makes you better. I don't know if you saw that quote, Jerg, and it might just be like him being stupid, but he apparently has a Zin every game and he puts it somewhere that we can't say on the podcast because of FCC regulations. But I'll tell you what, if that is the reason why the Celtics win the NBA Finals, I mean, not the fact that they won 65 games this year, and Porzingis has had a great season, and Tatum and Brown. If it's Drew Holiday and his Zin, then that is one hell of a marketing achievement for Zin. That you put it there and it makes you be the best NBA player of all time, apparently. I don't know.
Product of champions.
Yeah, how about that? Number 3, this is June, and this is Pride Month in the United States. And so, to me, what the Texas Rangers did with their website is tone deaf and deserves to be called out for. The Rangers are the defending World Series champions, and on their website, they had a slogan that was "Run it back," because that's the slogan: "Run back the title." Well, either they didn't realize what month it was, or they forgot. But their new slogan on their website is "Straight Up Texas" during Pride Month. Not ideal. I'm sorry, I understand you have a different idea of what that means, but think about outside of the lines, about that. That's a little bit of a bad slogan. So I hope they changed it. I'm pretty sure they have by now because they're getting some flack. But again, this is the Rangers in Texas, so who the hell knows? Number 2 for me on this list. I want to call out a group that I've been waiting to call out for a while, Wikipedia. And the reason for it is actually, it's not something stupid like, you're open source. It's because I want consistency when it comes to Wikipedia, when it comes to their filmography of an actor or an actress. And let me explain why this is a little far out left. There are some actors and actresses who basically get lines, for what acting roles they were credited in. Then there are some who get, tables, like the Microsoft Word tables. Well, even in the Microsoft Word tables, some tables are done chronologically from most recent to latest, or from first to most recent. All I'm saying is make it bloody consistent. If I want to look up Richard Harris's roles from the 1980s, I don't want to have to scroll all the way down because you start at 2000 and whatever, because unfortunately Dumbledore's no longer with us. But I'm saying, I don't want it to be that way. I want it to be the other way. It's right to left or left to right. It's like pick a lane. Pick a lane and stick with it. And so, I mean, Wikipedia is trash as it is, but that's, just one thing that I think that's really bad for them anyways. Now, number 1, what I think is something that is very unnecessary. I didn't think about this until Friday when I was driving home. I saw somebody walking on the street who had one of these on. You may be a fan of these, and that's all well and good, but I think they are the dumbest part of merchandise ever, because it kind of makes you realize how old you are. T-shirts from concert tours are stupid. I'm not going to look at the back of your T-shirt and say, "Oh, what concert did you go to on the tour of Pitbull?" Oh, I don't really care. They're not comfortable. They're basically Gildan tees that are screen printed. They shrink after 5 washes. And if you're a 65-year-old guy with a white beard, I don't want to know that you went to the Nicki Minaj tour. You got suckered into it, obviously, or you picked it up at a secondhand store. Like no. Like, if you're gonna wear that, just don't. If you're gonna wear it, don't. That's my mantra in life. And to those who are selling it, I get it. It's a thing of merchandise to sell, but why are we selling that? Like, the sweatshirts I get, but it's almost like after a while you're like, oh yeah, I went to this tour like 5 years ago and I don't really care anymore. Those t-shirts become like car wash rags after like 5 wears. Like, what's the point? You spend $45 on basically a newfangled microfiber towel to wash your cat. Like, come on. It's stupid. Like, when they used to sell CDs for the concerts, that was fine because, put the CD in the car, you drive to the beach, you listen to Fearless by My Girl Taylor, and, you're all good. But, if you're buying a hat from a concert tour, it's like, why are you dating yourself? Why are you aging out? I was 18 when I saw the Eagles in 1973, and all I got was this T-shirt. Like, why are you aging yourself, dude? Sir, this is a Wendy's. Please order your food instead, So that's my podium. That's my show, my shtick. That is our show for the morning of Sunday, June the 9th. Jurg, any comments on the podium?
Nicest day of the year. No, fantastic podium as always. You find the perfect topics to talk about. I didn't even know about the Rangers thing, honestly. So
yeah, it was bad. I saw it once. Well, I saw it on Twitter, and I was like, "This just seems this seems good for the podium."
Yeah, right.
Yeah. My first thought was no, but second was oh, yeah. So I knew where to bring it to the people, if you will. We'll see what happens next week. It is Father's Day weekend, obviously. That's my first weekend as a father. The pod daughter, I believe, is getting me a Weber grill, so that'll be very lovely to have a little cookout at the old homestead. But
she bought it, right? She selected it and bought
it. Oh yeah. She used her own credit card and everything. Great. Listen, if she gets a credit card now at 7 months old, we're in trouble. All the toys.
Society, honestly.
Society, exactly. So next week's show will probably go back to normal with Jurg hosting and doing the intro, the outro, and all the shtick.
I hope so.
Just happened this time around was just, like a Sergei Bobrovsky glove. I was here to save the show, basically, in the intro and the outro.
Yes.
Well, poor Edmonton. Canada won't win their trophy ever again.
Yeah, we will see what happens in that series, and we will see what happens in the following weeks, ladies and gentlemen. Like Rick said, thank you all so much for joining us here on another edition of the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast, found on Twitter and the YouTube channel, Sports Agents of Chaos. Be sure to join us. We're gonna have some fun. I think we have some fun episodes planned out here in the coming weeks, and we're inching very close to our division previews, which is always like our mock draft. Now the QB rankings that we've done it twice, and the division previews are like the 3 staples of the show so far. And it's going to be fun to get to the next one. So,
and the big challenge as well during the season.
Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, that and more coming in the next couple of episodes. Thank you all so much for joining us on this one. The QBs have been ranked. How dead wrong are we? How correct are we? Only time will tell. Take care, and see you next week for more fun football and chaos.